John Malone, as the new owner of Formula One, what sort of changes can we expect to see Liberty Media making to the sport? Well, there is some stuff that'll change. We'll try and improve our penetration of the sport globally, of course. But then there's a great deal about Formula One at the moment that we like and we want to keep the same. Such as, well, mainly the way that most of the teams struggle to survive and the managers, that's me and Mr. Ecclestone here, will continue to get very, very rich. Isn't that right, Bernie?
Oh, yes, that's right.
Hello and welcome to Gareth Jones on Speed. I'm Gareth, drifting from your left ear to your right ear, and in one of your ears, the return of Alex Goy. Hey, Alex.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm all right.
Nice to have you back again.
Lovely to be here.
Zoggy's still lost in space, as far as we know. He's somewhere in Earth orbit, we think.
So you've gone for the doppelganger again?
It's easier that way.
You don't have to use any different pictures.
And Richard Porter. Hey, Richard.
Hello.
You driven anything interesting recently, Richard?
Yes, well, I was banging on the last show about going to the Belgian Grand Prix, and because we were guests of Mercedes, they let us drive from Brussels, where we got the train to, down to Spa, and then back again in some AMG Mercedes.
Mercedes?
Mercedes.
Yeah.
Which does sound a bit like a lot of those cars, because they're all AMGs, they've all got those V8s, Mercedes. And the one that I drove, which I really liked, and I haven't driven before, is the latest C63. With that 4-litre V8 in it. Now, something interesting.
The Coupe?
Yes, the Coupe.
Yeah.
I rode in but didn't drive the GTS because I drove that in the UK a few weeks ago. And it's an impressive car, but I didn't love it. It's hard to drive quickly on British roads, like British sort of A and B roads.
Because it's
very
too big.
wide.
It's
yes.
very big.
Very
but
wide.
It sounds awesome.
Well,
They all sound awesome.
but here's my thing. I was in the passenger seat of the GT, and it sounds fruity and muscular and all of those things that the AMGs usually do. But actually, the C63, I think, sounds better. It's got more bass, and it has a low rev, sort of oiliness to it. It's a dirty sound. And just before we gave the car back, we went into the centre of Brussels on our way to the train station, and we went through some underpasses. And my colleague who's in the passenger seat went, rude not to, and just pushed the make exhaust louder button, which I'd switched off because we've been on the motorway and you don't need it there.
The asshat button.
Yeah, so he pushed that button and I just dropped up the windows and then eased it back a little bit, bink bink on the paddle shift down into second, and then and it made a tremendous noise. And then there were some people from our group in a GT behind us, and they got out of their car going, "Oh, your car sounded naughty in that tunnel." But it's a very lovely car to drive, and I'll tell you, one of the things that's most impressive about it is that I think the chassis is tremendous because it rides very nicely. Always the mark of a properly sorted car,
Indeed.
in my view.
Yep.
But you can chuck it around. It's got some skills. It's got a bit of sophistication to it. It's not just a hot rod with a massively powerful, noisy engine in it. I really, really liked it. So much so that I sort of found myself going, now, I wonder, there's an estate version maybe that I could, child-friendly, dog-friendly? No, can't. Don't be silly.
It's just a phone call away, Richard.
Well, it's a phone call and an enormous amount of money away, that's the thing.
Well, this is true. You could borrow one for a while.
Yeah, I suppose I could. It did cross my mind that I'd like to try it in the UK because it certainly felt good in the testing environments of Belgium, but what's it like on a British road? I don't know. Maybe I should. I'll ask them nicely. The thing is, I think I've used up all of my favours with Mercedes on account of them taking me to the Belgian Grand Prix, as I droned on about in the last show. To answer your question, yes, I drove that. It was interesting. And then a few months ago, I drove the GT, which I didn't totally fall in love with. It's a very pretty car, though.
I saw two on the way here, driving through London. I saw
Really?
a red one and a bright yellow one. And each of them was like, oh, that's very pretty.
I saw a yellow one driving in a convoy with two Lamborghinis, a pair of Rolls Royces, and two Audi R8s going up the high street here just the other day. These glorious cars all in convoy, stopping the
Were you
traffic.
actually in some kind of magical happy place?
I think...
Were you tripping balls?
I think I must have been. It was like opening up the middle pages of Car Magazine and reading, Mega Test, It was insane. Beautiful. Very rare to see those things in the wild together, not driven by journalists. driven by very wealthy-looking people, I would say. That was the one thing that united all these people.
You do have to be a wealthy person to run them because they are quite expensive.
I'm quite taken with the GT now. I never used to be. When it first came out, because I had such a soft spot for the car that it replaced, that I wasn't ready. It was like when Tara King took over from Diana Rigg, and you guys don't remember that.
I remember Diana Rigg very well.
Yeah. When Tara King took over, I was heartbroken. She's not Diana Rigg, but I learned to love Tara King, and indeed, in time, loved Tara King more than Diana Rigg.
And its back end looks like a 928.
It does, as if it's trying to escape out of a shell. But yeah, pretty car.
Yeah, very pretty car. Very low nose, very low, wide nose. When you look in your mirrors and one's following you, it does look like it's sort of snouting down the road, like it's sucking the tarmac.
It looks like, especially the R1 they're bringing out,
yes.
It looks a lot like the old SLR race cars from way back when.
Yeah.
A bottom feeder.
But then, when they announced that R was just after I'd driven the GTS, and I looked at it and went, they've made it wider.
Yeah.
That's the last thing it needs. I mean, if they'd really gone, this is the hardcore ultra version, and also we've spliced it down the middle and taken 6 inches out of it, because that would make it extraordinarily more usable on a normal road.
Yeah.
Good job they didn't make it longer than some Mercedes cars can be. That Maybach Coupe, what's it called? It's
the thing they put at Pebble Beach.
The concept, yeah.
57 metres long, I believe it is.
It's one of the biggest things in the world, like twinned with the new Mini Clubman.
It's hard to make a car that big that isn't dramatic.
It does look exceptionally phallic.
True. Not like my penis, it doesn't. Doesn't mean anything like my penis.
You might need to see a doctor.
Especially in that red.
Has it got doors on it? How is this happening?
How is that not normal?
What's normal? Do you have a favourite Mercedes?
I have a soft spot for the GT because pretty. I was never normally a Mercedes person, but I really want to go in an SLS. I really want to go in one.
Oh,
I had one lined up.
Funny actually, because the SLS was not a perfect car, but in a weird way, I think I probably liked it more than the GT.
Is that because it has doors that go up?
Well,
because
yeah,
doors
but those
that go
are
up make everything better.
Correct.
I don't know. The SLS attracted so much attention because of the doors, just because of the general SLS-ness of it, and particularly children flocked to it so much so that my wife started calling it the pedo car because she thought it was like it lured children in like puppies and sweets.
Ooh. That's not ideal, unless... So every time I see an SLS now, I'm going to be like...
I know.
So
because it's two-seater, and then you've got 2 seats, and there's a shelf behind the seats.
Perfect for storing a child.
That's what... No, because my wife was going, is that where you keep your sweets and puppies? Is that where you... I was like, stop saying this. It's really distasteful. But she was like, this car is a weird effect on people.
The SLS without the gull-wing doors, the Roadster, doesn't lose any of the drama.
I think it does. I'm not a big convertible fan. So I think a car without a roof can look a bit weird.
I know what you mean.
Completes it. The F-Type, for example.
Yeah.
Convertible looks good.
Yeah.
Coupe looks better.
Correct. I would agree with that. Yeah. Coupe's... Well, there's only one thing better looking than a coupe, and that's a shooting brake.
Of course, yes.
I was trying to think of an example of where a convertible demonstrably looks better than the coupe, and all I can think of is the Triumph TR7.
Yeah.
But there must be other examples. I just can't bring them to
Zonda, maybe, but no, because you get that weird back scoop thing.
Here's one, bang up to date. Have you seen the LaFerrari Spider?
Yes.
Yeah.
Molto pretty car.
It is pretty. The other one looked like a shoe, didn't it? The LaFerrari.
I very much enjoy the look of LaFerrari. I can't never work out whether you're supposed to say the LaFerrari, because that is actually the Ferrari.
The Ferrari, and then if you got a stutter, you'd just be there for hours.
Well,
That's what it sounds like as it starts.
how about if you were the guitarist in the band called The, you could actually refer to the guitarist. So yeah, you can say the LaFerrari.
What if the guitarist from The got the LaFerrari?
Ah.
The guitarist from The got the Ferrari.
The guitarist drove the LaFerrari. Oh yeah, I could see.
Do you know whose car that is? That's there's the Ferrari. Never mind. Sorry, it's starting to sound like an advert for Mercedes, but because I went on a Mercedes junket last month, I drove S-Class Cabriolet.
Big.
Now, that's a lovely boaty car. It is. We were driving along it with the roof down on a beautiful day, and also they'd given us Mercedes baseball caps.
Oh no!
And we were like, oh, it's a bit blowy, isn't it? And it's a bit sunny. And so me and my mate Greg, that's in the car with me, we both put our caps on. Then we went, Oh,
no.
God. We look like we're in an owner's club or something.
I suppose the S Cabriolet doesn't have the, what do they call it? The air pump? The air scarf.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
Yeah, but you don't use it on a hot day. You just cook your neck. It'll be horrible.
But
It starts to sizzle.
can they build that anymore? Because wasn't there like an issue with the patent behind the air scarf?
It's been disabled in America, I believe. American cars have it disabled
The
or
American
something.
government doesn't like fun.
True.
In an F-Type SVR, you can't activate VMAX mode unless you're moving, and you have to be moving at some speed. So in the British ones, you press VMAX, and the wing goes down from stationary, and you can just bolt it in a straight line. On the American one, you have to be moving about 20-30 miles an hour, and then you can try your top speed.
Right, that's a good question.
Because bullshit legislation.
American car legislation is occasionally quite mad. You know that seatbelt anchorage points in the Euro regulation is a short, sharp shock, which replicates what would happen in an accident, and the mounting has to be strong enough to withstand it. The US version of that is a sustained load for, I think it's 9 seconds or something like that. And I was talking to a car engineer and he went, no accident does that to a car.
Oh, well, apart from if you drove off a hill and your entire car was suspended by the seatbelt.
And you are so colossally fat that the seatbelt presses through you for a whole 9 seconds. I can see how that would work.
And there's also that weird thing with airbags. You know, the mandatory size of an airbag in the US is much bigger, or rather it has to be, because the airbag has to be capable of protecting as much as possible an unbelted occupant, even though wearing a seatbelt is now mandatory across the whole of the US.
Because rednecks are...
Well, that's the thing. So basically what they're saying is we're going to mandate you to have to do something to protect people who are breaking the law. Which is a bit weird. I mean, you go down a whole wormhole of the morality of that. But yeah, it's a bit odd.
It's a bit weird, isn't it?
America? Weird? Who'd have thought?
Hello, boy. I want to purchase a new truck.
Certainly, sir.
Wait, aren't you George Techie out of Star Trek?
No, I just sound a little like him.
Anyway, well, like I said, I'm looking for a new truck.
Yes, sir, I'm sure we can help you find the vehicle you need. How about the Columbia State Ranger?
I want it to be big.
No problem, sir. In that case, you need the Columbia Auto State Crusher.
It's gotta be strong.
It certainly is that, sir. It has a load capacity of 2 tons.
Good. Wait, is that 2 tons metric or 2 tons American?
2 tons American, sir.
That's better. Oh, I'm gonna need somewhere to store my shotgun.
The Gridiron model comes with a built-in gun rack in the dashboard, sir.
Good, I'll take it. Wait, just one more thing. How big is the V8 in this truck? Is it 300 cubic inches or 500 cubic inches?
Neither, sir. In the interests of lowering emissions and providing the customer with economical running costs, our latest models dispense with the V8, and we now fit a V6 turbo.
What, no V8? What do you think I am, a communist?
Scotty, want to beam up.
Sniff Petrol! Bring Gareth Jones on speed!
Filling in for the mighty Zog, who is otherwise engaged once again for this recording, Alex Goy. Alex, if you were Zog, I'd have to say, Zog, how's your Porsche 944 going? But as it's you, you've got a lovely little Morgan, haven't you?
My lovely Morgan three-wheeler. I went to Cambridge, and what I usually do when I go to Cambridge, because my Lotus lives in one place and the Morgan lives in the other, because I don't have millions of parking spaces because London is obscenely ridiculous. So one lives up with my mum because she's got a garage, and it's always nice to go and see her and the cat. And
good excuse.
Okay, so you've got it, because I was going to say you sound like you're suffering, or you could potentially suffer from what my colleague James May calls car scatter.
Yeah,
which is that once you own more than one car, and particularly in our business as well, then maybe you borrow cars sometimes. And suddenly you find that you've got the keys to 3 different cars that are in 3 different places, and none of them are the place that you're in, or they're all in the wrong place. And it's like the fox and the grain and the chicken. You're sort of trying to figure out how to.
What I end up spending a vast majority of my time doing is car Jenga.
Yeah.
So I had to play it the other day, getting down here. So what you do is you drive to Cambridge in one car, and then you go and play in the other one, but then, in order to do what I need to do, I need to get the practical car, which is our crew car. It's a lovely BMW X5. It's like driving a big armchair. But I had to then put one car away, get in another one, drive from Cambridge to London in that one, and then try and remember which bit of our car park I've parked the X5 in. Then park up the laters, dump all the stuff from one car to the other, then drive here, and then tomorrow, after I do my thing, I've got to fill the X5 with stuff, take that home, then put it back in the work car park, remembering to bring the keys for both it and the Elise, otherwise I won't be able to get home. Then go into the office, and it's faff.
How often do you get to drive your Morgan?
Normally, when I go up to Cambridge, I swap them out.
Yeah.
But this time, it's developed a new rattle, and I don't have time to actually diagnose it and fix it properly. Because weirdly, hand-built British sports cars, turns out they're not all that reliable.
What is there in a Morgan three-wheeler to rattle?
Literally everything.
And how can you hear it?
Well, because this particular, because you sit right next to the exhaust, and it's a joyous thing to drive. It makes people happy. You know, you drive it through town, you drive it through the middle of nowhere, and people start waving at you and smiling, and it's all very exciting. And you give it a little bit of a boot, and it gets all twitchy, and the steering is big and vague and rubbish. But you kind of get the experience like I'm back in the 1930s, and this is fantastic. And what ends up happening is a rattle. So from the exhaust, you get that, and you hear the exhaust and the babble, 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 and all that nonsense. But what's happened is something in my boot, or something on the seal of the boot of the car, because it does have a boot which is very secure. You undo it by two little straps with no lock on them, so don't leave anything in there apart from your hammer and your tyre goo. Because when you buy one, you get a hammer and a big spanner for the wheel nuts at the front. And then tyre goo. But you can't use the tyre goo on the ones on the front because they're inner tubed. Right. So you can only use that on the one. Oh, yeah. So they advised me when I bought it to stock up on inner tubes. And if I lose a tyre, give the AA man the spanner and the hammer and say, it's got an inner tube, have you got a pump, mister?
Nice.
Get the bucket of water and start putting the tube through them.
Can you jack up a three-wheeler?
I don't want to find out.
How would you do?
Well, I did say to them, what happens if the rear tyre goes?
Yeah.
And what you can do is you lift up the boot, and then I think using some kind of witchcraft, you remove the boot floor, which then leads directly to the wheel, and then you can find the valve and then put the goo in it, and then you take it to a dealer who will then do it properly.
I'm reminded of the old Peel, what was it called, the P50?
Peel P50,
yeah, we did this on How To, which was how do you change the tyre on a Peel? This is like 1992.
You go to a Lego shop and
they supply you with a handkerchief. When you buy the car, it used to come with a handkerchief. And the car is so small and so light that when it comes to change one of the front wheels, you put the handkerchief on your knee, you lift the car up, and you sit it on your knee, and then you do the wheel change. Yeah.
Now, I've lifted up a Peel P50, and although it is light...
I should say tip up rather than lift up.
It's light for a car.
For a car.
Yeah.
It's still a car.
Yeah, it's still quite heavy. I go, that's quite light for a cathedral. It's going to... I wouldn't want to rest it on my leg, handkerchief or no.
No.
I saw a man do it. It's probably on the YouTube somewhere.
Wow.
I'll dig it out. It's true.
Jeff Capes.
Yes.
So you've driven your Mog.
Driven the Mog.
Go on, tell us the most dramatic thing that you've driven a Rolls recently, haven't you?
So, yeah, you've got a choice of 5. So you can have a Focus RS.
Good start.
Driven millions of times. A Porsche Cayman GT4. An Aston Martin V12 Vantage S with a manual gearbox. A mini John Cooper Works Challenge, which everyone turns their nose up at, but it's actually quite good.
Of course it is.
Or a Rolls-Royce Dawn. Them's your choices.
I would like to start with the Aston Martin.
Okay.
Because the old V12 Vantage, when it had the manual box first time around, is one of my all-time favourites. I adored that car. Yeah. It's such a
visceral
thing.
It was. I had a very quick going one many years ago, and it was so good. So what they did was they stopped making that V12 Vantage and made the V12 Vantage S. So they gave it one of the many V12s they have that's not quite the one you get in the Vanquish, and you get something like 570-ish horsepower if memory serves. And they gave it something called their Sport Shift gearbox. And in my office, that lost a letter because it was just dreadful. It was a brilliant car, but it was a robotised manual, which you can still buy. Single clutch. So when you're driving it through town, you have your foot just resting on the go pedal, you're doing 30 miles an hour, it decides it wants to change gear. And unless you predict it and lift off, for a moment it feels like the car's driving through a big puddle of glue, because it just goes... Bleh. And then you start driving it on the paddles, and then you realise you've got to lift off, and once it warms itself up, it gets better, and when you're really on it, it is quite good. But the saving grace of the car was the fact that it sounded incredible, it handled brilliantly, and it was a noisy V12 Aston Martin. I have a weakness for British stuff, so...
It's difficult to make a car that is usable at low speed and at high speed. Jaguar do that well, don't they? They have a nice car with a split personality.
I think these days, actually, it is quite... It's not easy, but it's certainly doable.
It's easy, yeah.
Talking about the C63, for example, that's one of the things I liked about it, is that how civilised and normal it was at low speed. It didn't feel like it was trying to escape from its own skin. And, when you booted it, it was a bit of an animal. And Jag do it very well. But then so did BMW and
Audi and everyone.
Yeah, and
but
it's
not
just an Aston Martin.
Well, the thing is, it worked. People liked it because it was a very fast thing and it made a lovely noise. But because the Vantage is on its way out, they thought, well, let's see what we can do. So what they did was they essentially removed the robot from the 7-speed sport shit and just gave you a 7-speed dogleg gearbox, which is a fantastic idea in theory.
And the dogleg bit appeals to me.
The dogleg, so you go first and then up to second, and then, because there's lots of ratios in a very small hole, you go first up to second and then down to fifth.
Oh, really?
And you go, oh, God. So then you go back up to fourth, and you go, oh, no, wait, I want to be in third. So then you go down to third, and then somehow you end up in first. And it takes a while to get used to it, but it's because
you can get used to those.
You do get used to it. I've been lucky enough to drive it a few times. And so the first time I was just a mess. I was on a motorway and trying to fiddle with things, and country lanes trying to, get the right gear to go past a camera and make lots of noise. And what would happen was I'd inevitably go from fourth to 7th or some nonsense like that and just cock it up completely. But I had it around a racetrack the other week, and you do get used to it. It's not the best. It's not like the Porsche 7-speed, which is quite slick and quite smooth. Again, it's not like, oh my lord, this is the best thing ever, but it's a better gearbox than the one it replaced, and it turns the V12 Vantage S from a really good car into a truly great one. And if the gearbox was just a little bit better, just a little bit wider, it would be the best thing ever.
I find myself every so often when I just having one of those days where you're binging around the internet looking at cars for sale. I'd go and have a look at V12 Vantages, the original ones.
With the 6-speed.
With the 6-speed.
And the one that comes with a letter saying, if it's raining, don't drive it because it will kill you.
Did it? Because funnily enough, I took a friend out for a little spin in that car.
Hang on, let's just it doesn't say it will kill you.
No, it does not say it will kill
that.
you.
Just thank you for the legal department.
They didn't. On your release, is there a little sticker on the hood that says this is going to leak?
No, the hood doesn't leak, but when it rains heavily and I open the driver's door, even if it's like 3 or 4 days, I have to remember to take a step back because it just goes bleh, and wheeze all over the floor in some awful... Yeah, it's hideous. So
I didn't know that about the don't drive it in the wet thing. No one told me that. And I remember I took a mate out. We were in Wales and I was staying with a load of friends. And one of my friends is really into cars, and he went, oh, I like that car. And I was like, let's go out for a little run in it. So I went out and it started raining and it was quite frisky. My mate was quite himself.
I think it's the tyres they used on it. They just went, let's make it really fast in the dry only. By the way, we're based in the Midlands.
Yes.
And it's like, it's known for its sun, smooth roads.
But God, what a car. And what I've noticed is, weirdly, they seem to hold their value more than a lot of other Astons.
Because it's a V12 manual Aston Martin.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Even then, you'd think that sort of horrible things would happen to it. But no, they're still quite stiff money. And I always think, I want them to be 12 grand so I can have one. And it's not happening.
No, it's never going to happen.
Damn it.
Do you like that car better than the Focus RS?
I love the Focus RS so much. Right. I really, really do. It's like, I have a thing of like, there is no such thing as a perfect car, because it's got to look amazing, do 0 to 60 in less than 5 seconds. It's got to get 100 mpg, and it's got to fit a flat pack wardrobe from IKEA. And it definitely won't get 100 mpg, but it does look good, and you can put flat pack things in it, and it's really fast, and it's really fun.
Ticks almost all those boxes, that'll do.
And my mum can drift it, sort of, kind of half-heartedly.
That's when you put it in drift mode.
You put it in drift mode and scare the crap out of her. But it's such a wonderful car because you can do so much with it. You can't get hold of it for love nor money at the moment. It's going to go down as one of the greats, I think.
Didn't the Australians ban drift mode?
They didn't.
Is that right?
They didn't ban it, but they had a good old go.
Really?
So when the Mustang went to Australia, it's got a line lock mode where you can make it do big smoky burnouts, and it's hilarious. And the Australian government went, no, that's too wrong, because they call the fast cars and people that drive quickly hoons.
Hoons, yes.
So that's too much like a hoon car. Yeah. And so when the Focus RS went over, they had the launch, and there was this bloke whose first name I can't remember, his surname's Cadogan, and he was part of a news report on Melbourne Channel 7, and they started this piece with a serious newsreader going, Ford is releasing its new hoon machine, the Focus RS. In the little screen over his right shoulder was footage of my mum going sideways.
Fantastic.
Because a friend of mine...
A known hooner.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. She's 66 and was shitting herself. And I was like... So my mate posted this up, and I hadn't spoken to him in years, and I went, is that legit? Because that's actually my mum. And he went... No, so we sent it to the Velociraptor lawyers, and they went, well, there's not much we can do about it. And then someone else, a few days later, sent me a video of an angry man. Like, the YouTube still was this angry, shaven-headed man with drift mode kills or something like that. And it was a 20-minute long video. He starts it off with something like, Ford's released a new Focus RS, it's got drift mode, those irresponsible ass clowns, how dare they do this, they're going to kill people. And then they used our footage again about how anyone can do it. And he was quite rude about my mother, which did not go down well.
Dangerous.
But he used this and said, they did it sensibly, they used a track and blah, 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 blah. But imagine if there was a stroller there. It's like, if you're walking your child around a racetrack, probably good to remove it from the gene pool. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
But
they missed the point, haven't they?
They missed the point.
You think Australians would understand fun, but they missed it somehow.
Hello, I am the Chief Superintendent for Parawangula, Perth, Western Australia. I'm here today to speak to you about driving standards and what we call hooning. That is, the act of using a car, a vehicle designed for transport, for fun. There have already been a number of incidents recently where a young Australian driver has been seen driving his car in an entertaining way, arriving at corners at way too high a speed and then leaving that same corner with the rear wheels of the car literally dancing on the road surface. And once more, he's doing this close to a crowd of people and on a piece of road where there are a number of other cars being driven in a similar hooning sort of fashion. The likelihood of there being an accident is, of course, very high. However, such is the speed that this car has been driven at that so far we have not yet been able to apprehend the suspect in question. And so we ask you, the kind people of Australia, to aid us in our attempts to stop this menace. The car he's driving is described to be largely coloured blue, with the words bull and red written down the side. The driver is said to be easily identifiable by his large, gregarious, friendly smile and his propensity to encourage other Australian drivers to drink champagne out of a racing boot. Oh,
Gareth Jones on speed.
As you know, over the summer I tend to drive things which are useful for camping in. It's my opportunity to drive bigger things because we go out camping. But before I did that, I drove a SEAT Leon Cupra 280, what do we call it?
Those are good.
You know it holds a record around the Nürburgring, Alex.
Yes, it holds. It was the Sub 8. It was the quickest hot hatch for a while, but it was a bit hooky, the one they did, because it didn't have aircon in it and it had special tyres that you couldn't get at the time, and then they did a special Sub 8 pack to legitimise it. And then did the Civic Type R take the record back, and now something else has done it. Is it the Golf Club Sport GTIS? Yeah. Mega German, wie wants the record, so we will have it. It's a fantastic motor, that, though.
It was sparkling, although I was astonished when I did a straw poll on Twitter. I published a picture of it parked outside my house here, parked alongside a Golf GTI, the latest Mark 7. Is it Golf? We're on there, 7. And straw poll, guys, which is the cooler car? Which do you like better? And it was, I'd say, 80% for the Golf, which was astonishing, that people weren't interested in the SEAT, maybe because it had bright orange wheel rims. It was the orange and black trim pack, which you can get on this
That may
car.
be quite indicative in, say, Seat versus Volkswagen sales records as well.
Yeah, I can see why. For me, I'm always happy to give the underdog a chance. You know, I like the idea that Seat are doing their own thing to a degree. You've got to ask what's Seat for. You know, we've asked that question on the programme before. And it was a profoundly capable car. You know, it launched itself into roundabouts, launched itself out of roundabouts, could keep up with anything and anyone. It was effortless to live with. It had the turn-in of a scoundrel? Turned in like a scoundrel. It was remarkable. And yet, left almost no impression on me. I'm astonished. This car has perplexed me completely because it was remarkable. It did everything really well, but had no charisma. How is that possible? For a car that looks fascinating when you see it, you know, it's got nice creased edges, it looks like a sporting thing, it performed well, but there's something missing. What is it? What's wrong with Seat?
Is it a Volkswagen badge?
Maybe that's it, yeah.
Well, but yeah, basically...
A Golf GTR?
It's a Golf GTR.
It's a Golf GTR with a wick turned up.
Or the Golf R, which is a tremendous car, and I think has got some charisma to it.
But it's a Golf R with only front-wheel drive.
Yeah. The Golf R... When I
It's
drove
scrabbled a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and the Golf R has grip. But sort of grip where you can also feel the car kind of working and moving about a little bit, which is the good sort, where you're not going to sort of slide off the road, but at the same time... You're not bored because it feels
you get a little bit of
easy.
excitement and it starts squealing
it's
a
very
little
good
bit.
and quite a subtle job they've done on that car. But also, it's incredibly easy to drive it in a brisk way.
Yeah.
And I remember driving it in the Scottish borders on some beautiful roads with no traffic, and just driving it. They reached a point where I thought I'm going to have to sort of just calm down here because it's such a confidence-inspiring car, and I was having such fun.
Yeah.
I thought I'm going to do something silly in a minute because you get a bit over exuberant.
You get that hold my beer moment.
It was
and
the
you're
kind of yes, exactly.
No.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
I think that's what may have
Check
been...
yourself before you wreck Volkswagen's expensive car.
That may have been what was wrong with this car. It was so capable that 90% of the time I never drove it in the sphere where it was going to impress me because you've got to be doing 120 mile per hour, you know.
Is that because cars are getting too fast? Not that there is such a thing as too fast,
Correct.
but you know, you get all these cars that can do 1,000,000 miles an hour, and then you go, well, I'm never going to experience the limits of grip unless I'm on a racetrack and a bit of a nutter.
I prefer to think of it as roads are getting too slow.
Yeah,
It was disappointing, but not... You know, my shoulders didn't drop over disappointment. It was like, I wish it'd been great, but it wasn't. It was great, but I was disappointed that it didn't leave me salivating. Do you know what I mean? I should have come back from that in the way that I came out of a... what was the lovely Renault Coupe Cup that they used to do, the 275? That was a tremendous thing, in the same sort of way. Great performance, great handling. I loved it. I didn't love this car, and I hate saying that because it was great.
It's weird because the Renault is a really charismatic, great fun thing.
Yeah.
But the Clio underneath it, the 220 Trophy, is awful. Mm-hmm. It goes round corners like nothing else, but the rest of it's just wrong. It doesn't feel right. Like, the Renault should know how to make a proper
Compliant
fast car,
chassis. Yeah,
but it's just a bit cack, and they're going to fix it because they've brought out this R16 concept, which is a 275 Megane in a Clio, which sounds hilarious and quite twitchy. So hopefully they'll bring that out. It's a concept for now, but that'll be fun.
Before I tell you about the other car I've driven, the other concept that's caught my attention recently is this Hyundai i30N. Have you seen it?
I saw a render of it in Autocar or something like that.
That's all there is of it at the moment. Of any car to look like a proper WRC car at the moment, that's the one that's got the franchise.
Well, that was...
very desirable.
If we're talking about the same image, there was the disclaimer in the story, which is something I really hate about automotive media. Our exclusive image shows what this could look like.
We've made this up.
So the doodle we pulled out of our arse might look like a car a little bit.
Well, because there's
hate
some
that.
spy shots of them testing a prototype at the Nürburgring, I think. It didn't look as bloaty, pumped up as that drawing.
If it looks like that drawing, I'm going to have two. I love it. It looks amazing.
The piece, though, was interesting because they go, we're going to have this 2-litre turbocharged thing, whatever, and rather than having that as the utmost point, they go, no, this is our starting point. We want to take the Focus RS because that is the one to beat now, at least.
Yeah.
I'd drive a Hyundai if it was that good.
There have been 3 Hyundais, is that the plural of Hyundai now, that I quite like. The i30N, which I'm hoping it looks as good as the drawings, that hydrogen fuel cell car that I've driven several times now, which is remarkable. It's one of the most extraordinary cars I've ever driven. And also the, what was it called, the i40 or the i30 Estate, their Mondeo size car.
Oh, the
i40,
i40 that looked great, but no one bought it.
No one bought it.
I think it's still on sale, isn't it?
I don't know.
I think it is. I think they might have given it a facelift and no one's noticed.
Good looking, great engine, lovely handling.
Was it? Actually, that's the thing I was going to say, because I drove it and I thought it was a perfectly good car, but it had a terrible engine.
I thought the engine was
diesel.
High revving. No, this was the petrol.
I was going to say, because the engine was the biggest, and an otherwise seamlessly just sorted out kind of nice car.
Yeah.
That 1.7 litre Hyundai Group diesel engine is piss poor.
Right.
It was. I think they've made it a little bit better now, but yeah, had the power band that was all of about sort of 200 revs.
So you go,
yeah. So, I missed it. I drove past the power band there.
There used to be an advert for it when you drove into London on the M4, just through the corridor a bit, and when you raised. And I used to drive past it thinking, that's a really good looking car. And then by the time I got to, was it Landmark Cars on the roundabout?
Yeah.
And then go, oh, look, Dino.
Yeah.
And then just
That's
kind of
a really good looking
I
car.
think I saw another good looking car on a poster, and it was a... No, I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
No one's interested.
The other car I drove wasn't really a car, it was a van. But this is a van that's also sold as a car, bear with me. It was the Mercedes-Benz Vito, right, which is a van. They also sell the V-Class now. The car which has replaced the R-Class is much more of a van-based thing.
No, the V-Class has replaced the Viano, which is the same thing.
Viano, indeed.
Sorry.
Viano. Yeah.
Iran. Viano.
Navara.
Because I always got confused, because I think Viano was like the people carrier version of the Vito.
Yeah.
And the Vito now carries on.
Yeah.
But it's gone rear-wheel drive as well, isn't it? It used to be front-wheel drive, yeah.
There's both, I think. There's a front and a rear-wheel drive version. But this is the Vito Tourer I had, which
So is it the estate version of the van?
So it...
Yeah,
Go on, yes,
it's a van which occupies very much the same space as the V-Class.
But it is the V-Class.
No, it's a separate. It's not the V-Class.
But is it a van with windows?
Yeah,
So it is
sold.
the V-Class,
That's
but it
really
isn't.
confusing.
Yeah. Or is it like, we have lots of very expensive things in the back of our lovely Mercedes van.
Yeah.
Try and steal them.
It is smaller wheels, lower spec, not as shiny. In other words, the same vehicle as the V-Class. It's a cheaper alternative.
What a weird thing to do.
I know. There's a website which took supercars and reimagined them as Popular Plus versions.
Oh, I love that.
With
Did you
cheap
see this?
steelies.
Was that
It's
a
like
car wow thing?
Maybe.
'Cause they
So
do a
like
lot of
McLaren
those.
P1, but on steel wheels with like grey plastic bumpers.
Nice.
Beautiful.
And like black door mirrors.
Hang on.
Really nicely done.
Was that Janopnik? Was that Jason Torchinsky having fun?
No,
So I seem to remember
it
he
wasn't.
did something like that.
Don't recall. But this van is a sort of the Mercedes equivalent to that. As if they'd taken the V-Class and put on body-coloured bumpers and cheaper wheels and stuff, and it looks ace because of it, for exactly
So
the
what
same reason.
seating configuration do you get inside?
This was 2-3-2.
All forward facing?
Yeah.
Okay, so because in the V-Class, or certainly in the posh V-Class, you get that
you get the whole
train seating. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get 2 rear facing and 2-3 forward facing in the back.
Yeah. If I wanted, I could take out the second row of seats and turn them round, so they're facing the third row of seats.
So the V-Class is basically, we need to bus very important people from Heathrow to meeting, and
Yep.
they can work on the way.
Yeah.
The Vito Tourer thingy
Yes.
is, I'm terribly Catholic, I've had lots of children, we need a van.
Correct.
It's the minibus.
Yes, correct,
It
it is.
should be called the Vito
Catholicism.
Church of Rome. Yeah.
The Vatican.
The belief.
Vatican class.
That's what they call it, V-Class. That's what the V stands for. Now we know. Well done. Catholicism
Do you have
breeds...
anything popey? Yes, we do, sir.
Well, he used to ride around in an ML, didn't he?
He did, yes.
An ML
the
with a big
Pope-mobile.
pod on the
Oh,
back.
it was, yeah. TARDIS on the back of an ML, that's true. But Catholicism insists that you have lots of children. We need more Catholics. They write it in, don't they? And so Catholics would do very well with this car. There's enough room to get more Catholics than there are in Italy in this car. We took extra kids on holiday this year. We took our 2 and a friend.
Yeah.
And extra tent and all that. And
All the stuff.
Yeah. And I've only said this ever once on Speed when I'm talking about the camping car every year, is that this car was too big for the stuff we had. Actually, I loaded it all in, and I could have put exactly the same amount in again. It was huge.
Well, that means there's more room for things like beer. And
Yeah,
wine.
true. And more beer.
Hats.
And more
And
beer.
hats and straw donkeys.
This car didn't have a happy tale, though, because it rained and rained and rained and rained and rained and rained.
Where did you go?
South Wales.
That is where they make the rain.
Yes, true.
That's in the category of no.
Rain. We arrived, we pitched the tent in beautiful sunshine. The sun went down, we had the heavens above, it was marvellous. We woke up the next day, it was raining. It rained for 4 days. It rained so much that the track leading to the campsite where we were staying was utterly flooded. You couldn't see where the road finished and where the river alongside it started. And because of that, I made a small error and left what was this very narrow track, got 2 wheels on a soft verge, which I couldn't see because of the bad weather. That was even softer than any previous soft verge, and consequently dropped 2 wheels into the gully running down the side. And at very low speed, at practically walking speed, it was only a very narrow lane with my son Tycho in the front and the rest in the back, suddenly found the car at about 45 degrees. It's just like, what the hell happened there? I mean, you know, I like to think I'm reasonably good at driving, and I've never had an accident at this sort of speed before. And I was absolutely befuddled. We got everybody out. You know, no one was flustered because there hadn't been any drama whatsoever. Yeah. Oh, hang on a minute. This is weird. So the trouble is there was no way of getting the car out whatsoever. So I put the flashes on. I alerted the farmer. I called the RAC, and the RAC said, "Yeah, we're going to need 2 trucks. It'll cost you £600 for us to get this car out."
Did you then find the farmer and say, "I've got a crate in the back. Can you use your tractor?"
I did.
Yes.
And I chickened out at the last moment. We worked it out between us how we were going to do it. And I thought, no, I can't. This is going to trash this absolutely brand new van. No matter what we do to get it out, it's going to damage it. Because it's sat in this position undamaged. Absolutely. It hasn't touched the walls, touched anything. It's just sat there. But I think dragging it out is going to destroy it. So I called Mercedes and said, "Look, what do I do? Do I get a tractor to pull it out?" They said, "Oh, we'll take care of it." And they sent someone up from the local Mercedes commercial vehicles dealership, because it was not from Mercedes-Benz cars, but from the commercial vehicles. And they turned up with...
A Unimog.
Well, they should have done, but actually they turned up with a Chevrolet pickup with a V8 in it. And I thought, how the hell are we going to get this out of here? And he used a very clever system of a sort of a crank attached to a tree opposite, and this little 4-wheel drive thing, and popped it out with full lock on, not a mark on it apart from one slight dent by the sill on the left-hand side, which had hit a rock. It was incredible. But I have to say, because of that instance, I now know that is not the perfect camping vehicle for me, despite the fact that I get twice everything I need in it. Because if I'd have gone in a Toyota Hilux or a Navara or an Amarok, I reckon I would have just driven out of that rut.
Well, the Hilux probably would have destroyed the countryside.
Yes, in the process.
Its way underground and then appeared like the mole in Thunderbird.
Correct. A phenomenal car. If you're thinking of something with huge volume, it's half the price of a V-Class. Go for the Vito Tourer.
Are you Catholic? Do you need lots of space for children? Perfect vehicle right there.
There it is. You've been listening to Alex Guy.
Bye.
To Richard Porter.
Goodbye.
And me, Gareth Jones. We'll see you. Probably without you next time.
Sorry. My doppelganger's going to appear again and be all charming and stuff.
You've practically got a residency now, haven't you?
Well, I like your sofa. It's comfy.
See ya.
To send us an email, see pictures, get song lyrics, join our Facebook fan site, follow us on Twitter, or to find out about sponsorship opportunities, go to garethjones.tv. Gareth Jones on Speed is made in London by Whizbang.
Gareth Jones on